Jaret, welcome to the Razor's Edge.
Good to be here. Glad to be on the razor's edge.
So I've got to say, you've been keeping yourself busy. Your solo album came out a few weeks ago. Bowling for Soup's album, Pop Drunk Snot Bread, is released next week. You've got the tour coming up. Then you've got an acoustic tour with Rob a few weeks after that. And you've got things like your podcast going on as well. So how do you find the time for it all?
Man, that's the big question. Actually, I don't really know. It's been a really, really busy time. I mean, I guess the thing that I can say is that I did not like being shut up during quarantine and not being able to be busy. So I certainly love to be busy. The two records were recorded during lockdown, so to speak. So glad they're finally, that the country record is out and that Pop Drunk Snot Bread will be out soon. And I'm just ready to get back to playing shows, and then, of course, there's the podcast and stuff like that, which sort of just, I've gotten so used to doing the podcast that I do tend to, it's just kind of part of what I do. So, it doesn't stress me out, but I may have a little bit too much on my plate right now. It might be something that I need to look at in the fall to maybe take a little bit of a break.
Yeah. So obviously I want to talk about both of the albums, your solo and the Bowling for Soup one. So let's talk about Pop Drunk Snot Bread first, which comes out on April 22nd. It's your 11th Bowling for Soup studio album, and that's 28 years into your career. So how do you find the motivation to keep on going after nearly 30 years?
Yeah, it's crazy. And the thing, excuse me, the thing with Pop Drunk Snot Bread is, it probably wouldn't even exist had lockdown not happened, because we had really switched to more of a singles approach. I think that's the world we live in now. And, it's attention spans are pretty quick to move from thing to thing. And so, doing an entire album was not really something that we had our sights set on. And then we find ourselves, home and away from one another and missing each other. And so that was the thing, is like, what could we do that, would bring us together for a few weeks and let us just hang out, and it was make a record. And so that was the motivation behind this one. I had a couple of songs already written. Alexa Bliss was already out. And, another song called The Letter 3 already existed. But other than that, we it all had to be written, for that record. But motivation wise, I guess just being locked away and having plenty to think about and plenty to look back on. And I think that's probably why the album is so, there's a lot of reflection on it. So I think that's probably why, is that there's a lot of looking back and being very appreciative of just being able to do this for a living.
Yeah. And I've been listening to it today and loving it. It's very much got that Bowling for Soup sound to it. It's unmistakable. So where other bands have maybe changed direction over the years, you're every bit as entertaining and true to your roots now as you were on day one, I feel.
Yeah. I think that there's that some bands evolve, by design. And I think that it's good, and I think that there's a place for that. Again, I love bands that started out as being a little bit more funny, like Sum 41 that have gone into a heavier area. Blink-182 obviously evolved so much throughout the years. Green Day, kind of can't ever really pinpoint what they're going to do. But I think with Bowling for Soup, people know what they love about our band and what to expect from us. And I just think that's just what our niche is. And we discovered that really early, really figured out what who we are, so to speak.
Yeah.
I even say that on the record. We know who we are. I say that on my country record when I sing about, the guys in Bowling for Soup. I say we never needed crowns. We know who we are. Meaning, I consider us, the greatest in the world, and at doing what we do. And I don't really know that you could make an argument that we don't.
Yeah, yeah. And I love how every song is just as entertaining on this album as it was back on the early albums, and that I think teenage me gets a kick out of that still today. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and we write the way we write, and we are, the kind of music we are, and I'm really lucky in that, I have Jaret and Jaret and Kelly and now a solo career, in country music, and even, the things that I do outside of quote unquote music, but like for film and TV. So I get the outlet of being able to be creative in a world that isn't just this pop punk thing that we do. And so it affords me the really just the desire and the motivation to just keep going with Bowling for Soup in the direction that we go, and just to really just see if we can't push those limits, and something that we've already, sort of been doing for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't want to ask about the inspiration behind the songs, because I think some of them it's fairly obvious, but where do you come up with lyrical ideas for songs like I Want to Be Brad Pitt or Alexa Bliss that you mentioned earlier?
Excuse me. My friends would tell, I just woke up from a nap. So I've been up all day. I had to get up really early to get my kid to school. And so that's some rock star shit, right? Many people most of my friends would tell you that living in my brain would be something they would want to do at some point for a day.
Yeah.
I often argue and say no, because there's so much going on up there. I think I'm the only person that can actually handle it. But that kind of stuff just hits me. I mean, Alexa Bliss was honestly, that song was written specifically for her, because I just thought all of the other wrestlers have these cock rock songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, why wouldn't she have a pop punk song about her? This is what the kind of music she likes, and she and I had gotten to be friends. In fact, I'm going to her wedding this weekend. So that one, just pretty much wrote itself. But like a Brad Pitt, that just comes from being a fan of Brad Pitt and sitting up here with a guitar, and that line just popping into my head, and then just going, wouldn't it be funny to just write a song about wanting to be Brad Pitt? And then just like list a bunch of shit he's done, like I just think that's funny. And luckily for me, most of the time when I have entertained myself enough, my other people find it entertaining as well. So I knew I was onto something when my wife heard it and was like, she just shook her head and said, "You're crazy." And I was like, okay, there's one good thing. And then when the band heard the song for the first time, and Chris just couldn't stop laughing about the line, "I'll bet even Brad Pitt wants to be Brad Pitt." And so I knew I was onto something then.
Yeah, yeah. And you say you're friends with Alexa. So what does she think of the song you've written about her?
Oh, I mean, I think she's flattered, and she loves the song. And, I actually sent it to her on her birthday, a few years ago before it was even released. And she was, I think she was very shocked, so, Alexa is she is an interesting one. I don't think she realizes how famous she is, or how she's so down to earth and so normal that you'd be surprised at the stuff that she finds, shocking, or that, and so I think just because she's like that, she was very, very surprised. And I think it still kind of blows her away sometimes. She'll just, wherever her and Ryan will be out, and she will hear it and send a text or a photo or something. And so yeah, that's, you know, good thing about people like her is that she's so down to earth that she's able to appreciate things, and so that makes me feel good.
Yeah, yeah. So the album cover then is a throwback to the 80s with your own take on the Garbage Pail Kids, and 12-year-old me is looking at that thinking it's the ultimate album cover. So
Right.
whose idea was that?
Yeah, it's my idea, and I knew I had the perfect artist for it because the guy that's been doing our art, you know, for about 12 years is Dave Pearson from the band Lacey, and I knew he would nail it, and so I gave him enough time, to where I was just like, look, I need you to nail this because the cover is so important to the title. If we don't nail this, then it's really not going to make any sense, you know. And so it just, as far as like the vision in my head, and he actually killed it. He did it's better than what I had imagined it being, you know. And just the way that he separates us on the cover made it even better than I had in my head. In my head, it was just kind of all of us as Garbage Pail Kids, like in an alley or something. And the way that he separated us out, it made it to where each of those characters now can be its own thing.
Yeah.
And there's a deluxe, I guess everybody will know this soon enough. There's a deluxe version of the album. I guess the album just comes with it. Yeah. So if you buy the physical copy of the album, you get like 4 like actual cards that go with it. So anyway, he absolutely nailed it. And I love to, like, it's fun for me in interviews, you know, already, because I've been talking about the record now for a couple of weeks doing press, and it's cool that people just instantly know what it is we were going for with the cover and sort of what the direction where we're leaning was.
Yeah. And I was looking at it this morning thinking, does the art come before the album title? And you've taken
it was the reverse. Yeah, I'm essentially spoofing Pop Punk's Not Dead, and I just thought everybody would just instantly get that. You know, I just thought, okay, so if we call it Pop Drunk's Not Bread, everybody will just understand it. Originally, that's what it was called. It was called Pop Drunk's Not Bread. And then Gary was like, you should change it to Pop Drunk Snot Bread. And then I'm like, that's good. But now it's like just 4 random words together. So you really have to be on your toes to figure out what the hell we're talking about.
So with a change of direction somewhat, your solo album Just Woke Up came out a couple of weeks ago, which is distinctly different from what most fans would expect, and it's pretty much, as you've said, a country record. So
right,
the first question I have to ask is, why did you go down that route?
Well, I'm from Texas, born in Grapevine, Texas, raised in Wichita Falls, Texas. You know, here in Texas, we're a proud bunch, and so that's sort of the first hint that I would even go down that path. Country music is king here. It's something that I've always absolutely loved and adored, especially the classic guys, you know, Waylon and Willie and Johnny Cash and Kenny Rogers, and the list goes on and on. And that's what I grew up listening to. You know, that's what was playing in the car when my parents were driving us around, and that's what was playing in the house when we were spending time together as a family or whatever it was. So, you know, it was already just in my head. And I really think, as I've looked back on things and my own songwriting style and all of that, I'm certain that, a big part of my songwriting came from that influence. And I think you can hear that, you know, if you listen to Bowling for Soup songs, there's stories, and they're simple stories that sort of have a beginning and an end, or have some sort of a twist. And that's what a good country song does too. You know, not necessarily the twist, but the story. And so, I mean, it was something that I thought, you know, it's something that I knew that I could do at any time in my career. COVID hit, quarantine, you know, the first year I was working solely on Bowling for Soup. And then the second year started, And, my friend Zach Malloy was just like, dude, you got to do this country record. You've been talking about doing it for so long. Now's the time. And so he was right. And so we hunkered down and wrote the thing and recorded it in about 3 weeks. And, that was almost exactly a year ago. And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you manage to get people like Frank Turner, Cody Canada, Stephen Egerton for Descendants involved in that record?
Yeah, just personal friendships. I'm very lucky since since the start of my career to manage to become friends with a lot of people that I admire and respect in the music industry. Cody Canada is a Texas country superstar that I've known forever, from his days in Cross Canadian Ragweed and us doing shows with them and at colleges and things with Bowling for Soup. Stefan is in my favorite band, The Descendants, and I'm so very lucky to be able to call him friend, and to have him play guitar on Natalie is a huge deal for me, because that's a song that was actually written and recorded by my biological father, who I never knew. So if you'd like to hear the original version of that, you can search Charlie Jones Natalie, and you can hear my biological father singing it in 1959,
Right.
and it's just on YouTube. And then Frank, I was a fan, still am, huge fan. I have his logo tattooed on my hand. But I was lucky enough to sort of become a fan early and be a champion, of his, not that he needed it, but be a champion of his on the internet. And he took notice of that, and we met, and, it's been nice to become acquainted and be friends with him. And so, I made sure that he knew that I wasn't just, taking the piss. I thought that the song that I picked for him to be on was perfect. And, I really felt like he would add something to it, and he was very gracious and agreed to do it. So very, very happy that he was able to, and that, to have a song out there with all of those guys, and even Uncle Cracker appears on the first track. Great guy, and such a fan of his writing and of him as a person. And so just really lucky. I didn't cash in all my favors, but those are a few that I did.
Yeah. So you're gonna hit the road in a couple of weeks with Bowling for Soup, and originally in the UK you were hitting a load of coastal towns, but obviously that's been postponed a number of times, and we've got London, Birmingham, and Glasgow in amongst those towns now. So, why originally were you just going for like the seaside resorts?
Yeah, it was. We would have just been there. So we were there in February 2020, and so the idea, and we did all the major cities. Yeah. And so the idea was, hey, let's go back and do something that nobody ever does. Let's try something new, And so this coastal tour was supposed to happen in the fall of that same year, and it would have made a lot of sense, because we could have said, hey, we already hit the major markets first part of this year, and now we're just trying something new. And some of these places we've played, and some we haven't. And so, so we had tickets out there that people have been hanging on to now for a year and a half. So definitely, it was never even a thought to cancel that tour and do bigger cities. I mean, it's always been, hey, we started down this path, we're going to continue down, and we're going to go do these freaking shows. So I'm glad that we got to add in Birmingham, London, and Glasgow. And then Bristol kind of came as a surprise. We had one of the venues in one of the smaller towns closed down. So Bristol Academy came through for us and is going to let us come play. And so, I'm anxious to get back to Margate and Bexhill by the Sea. And we've never played in Blackpool before, and that's our first show. And I think it was the first one to sell out. So bring it on. Let's do it.
Yeah. So what can fans expect from the tour? Have you got any surprises for the coastal towns?
It's not a lot of surprises. Again, it's a weird time, because, it's like we have this new record coming out, but again, this sort of an extension of the last tour. And so, honestly, all I can say is it's going to be a very upbeat night. It's going to be all the songs, and we will be firing on all cylinders. And I'm so stoked that Lit are able to come over. We were fans before we were friends of those guys. And now we're lucky to be able to say both. And of course, the Dolly Rots are just an extension of the Bowling for Soup family. So it is going to be it's going to be a blast, and I just absolutely cannot wait to see the smiling faces of the United Kingdom.
Yeah. So then a few weeks after, in May, you're back doing an acoustic tour with Rob.
Yeah.
And I guess the tours are close together now because of scheduling, thanks to COVID. But
Yeah.
what was the idea behind the acoustic tour?
Yeah, the acoustic tour was supposed to happen last fall, and the whole idea was to come in and do this big sing-along show to where it's like it'd be like a first night out for most people, that because everybody was still in quarantine. You guys were still in full lockdown when we were coming, and they were just starting to let smaller venues do something. And so we rolled the dice to come over, and then Omnichrome hit, obviously, and that made it to where stuff started shutting down again. And so but we're just going to follow through the same thing. My last few acoustic tours over there have been more of a storyteller's thing. I've come over with my Heartache and Hilarity show and done a lot more, just telling you about what songs are about, and emotional stories about my life and my band and such. And this is just a full-fledged attack on songs that everybody knows, hoping the whole audience is singing along the whole time, and just a great, intimate night. And able to hit some of those towns that the full band isn't hitting. So, people aren't too mad at us.
Yeah. So will any of the songs from the solo album get an outing on that second tour?
On the second tour, we'll probably play one or two. I'm trying to keep the things as separate as possible, but certainly I want to bring attention to the album when I can. I think, it's something that I really am proud of, and I want people to hear, and that's a good environment for it, for sure.
Yeah. So you've got obviously an incredibly busy schedule the next few months. But after that, what's next for you and Bowling for Soup?
Well, we will come back after the acoustic. We start our summer tour. It will take us all through the summer with Less Than Jake and then various other bands. And then we get into the fall. I'm actually hoping to come back to the UK on a country, doing a country set. Just touring, just a lot of shows. More touring than we've done in probably 10 years. Yeah. And, at our age, that's, we're going to have to exercise our livers. That's for sure.
Jaret, it's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. So
yeah, you too, man. Thank you for such an awesome conversation, man. And, I look forward to, seeing you and the Razor's Edge supporters out at the shows.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.